Airplane was a 1980 parody film that was written and directed by David and Jerry Zucker and Jim Abrams in their directorial debuts. The movie stars Robert Hayes, Julie Haggerty, and it features Leslie Nielsen, Robert Stack, Lloyd Bridges, Peter Graves, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Lorna Patterson. It's a parody of the disaster film genre that was so popular during the 70s, and it particularly follows the storyline of a 1957 Paramount film called 0 Hour. It's known for its use of surreal humor and fast-paced slapstick comedy, including visual and verbal puns, gags, running jokes, and obscure humor. The storyline is about an ex-fighter pilot named Ted Stryker, and he's a traumatized war veteran turned taxi driver. Because of his pathological fear of flying and his subsequent drinking problem, where he splashes beverages anywhere but in his mouth. Ted has been unable to hold a responsible job. His wartime girlfriend, Elaine Dickinson, now a flight attendant, breaks off their relationship before boarding her Los Angeles to Chicago flight. Ted abandons his taxi and buys a ticket on the same flight to try to win her back. Once aboard, however, Elaine continues to reject him. After the in-flight meal is served, the entire flight crew and several passengers fall ill. Ted Stryker seems to be the only healthy person aboard that has piloting experience. Now it's up to him to get this big bird down to Chicago safely before the poisoning starts to cause casualties. But Ted Stryker's aversion really is a serious psychosis, which breaks open and needs to be cured immediately. The directors of the film chose actors such as Robert Stack, Lloyd Bridges, Peter Graves, and Leslie Nielsen because of their reputation for playing no-nonsense characters. Until this film, these actors had not done comedy at all, so their straight-arrow personas and line delivery made the satire in the movie all that more poignant and funny. Bridges was initially reluctant to take this role in the movie, but his sons persuaded him to do it, and I'm glad they did. His role is one of the funniest in the film. Leslie Nielsen's first comedic part as the Doctor led him to feel grateful that he had been offered the role, because he was fearing that he was getting too old to do anything but play an elderly grandfather in movies. The studio really wanted to cast Dom DeLuise as the Doctor, but the directors were headstrong in having Leslie Nielsen play this role. This gave him a completely new career in wacky comedies, particularly the Zucker-Abrams-Zucker productions for the famous scene of the Boeing 747 crashing through the large windows inside the terminal. They received numerous letters from various pilots telling them that they had come very close to doing the same thing in real life. Some pilots said that they had almost come so close to the point to where the airplane was almost touching the glass with the nose of the plane. The picture of the boy that you see in the spinning newspaper that has the headline, "Boy Trapped in Refrigerator Eats Own Foot," is actually Billy Koch, the grandson of the producer Howard Koch. His grandfather called him up one day and asked him for a photo of himself. So Billy grabbed his second grade school photo and gave it to him. It was only after the film came out that he really found out why his grandfather had wanted this photo. Lee Bryant plays the wife who thinks out loud, "Jim never has a second cup of coffee at home." This is a parody of a real U-Band coffee commercial that was popular at this time. Bryant has stated that when she auditioned for this part, the producers and the director had no idea that she was actually the same woman that was in the real coffee commercial, and it was never brought up by anybody and was really only known to her. In an interview shortly after the death of Peter Graves in 2010, Rossi Harris, who played Joey, said that Graves was very uncomfortable when the two were on set together. Graves avoided any contact with him at all when they weren't filming. He also commented that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was not acting when he erupted and grabbed him following his relentless criticisms about Kareem's basketball performance. That reaction you see on Joey's face when Kareem grabs him was really quite real. For the argument between the announcers concerning the white and red zones at the airport, the producers hired the same voice artist who had made the real-world announcements at Los Angeles' LAX. At the real airport, the white zone is for loading and unloading of passengers only, and there's no stopping in the red zone except for transit buses. These two people are also married to each other in real life. The scene that's called "I Gotta Get Out of Here," where the stewardess tries to calm down a hysterical passenger, was actually improvised all on the spot. The original scene was based on a scene from 0 Hour, and the scene only called for the stewardess to try to calm her down, and then another passenger tells the stewardess that he'll handle this, and then he slaps her. The joke was supposed to end there. Lee Bryant, playing the hysterical woman, suggested to the directors that the gag should be extended to bring in other annoyed passengers, forming a slap line. They loved this idea, but they were really hesitant to do it, fearing that Bryant might get hurt with all these slaps. But they went ahead and decided to try it, and they even added in some props like boxing gloves, tire irons, and revolvers for the passengers. After briefly rehearsing the bit, they kept it in the film after just one take. The directors of the film were friends with David Letterman, and they asked him to audition for the role of Ted Stryker. While they really liked his reading that he did, Letterman was visibly uncomfortable at the idea of formally acting, and he was openly relieved when he found out that he didn't get the part. The only real source of tension between the filmmakers and then Paramount head Michael Eisner were two key parts of the original filming plan. The movie was to take place on board a small prop plane instead of a larger Boeing jetliner, and it was also supposed to be filmed in black and white. Eisner told the directors and the producers that he respected their views, but the movie would not be greenlit unless it was set aboard a larger aircraft and filmed in color. He gave them a weekend to think it over, and by that Monday, the filmmakers agreed to his request. Now, some things in the film could have looked quite a bit differently. There were two actresses that turned down roles in the movie. The part of the Jive Lady was originally intended for Harriet Nelson, who played the mother in the 1950s sitcom The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet. She was really concerned about the film's adult language, and that's the reason that she turned it down. She was replaced with Barbara Billingsley, who played the mother of the 1950s sitcom Leave It to Beaver. Nelson went on to say that she regretted not taking the film role. Then another person that turned the film down was Sigourney Weaver. Fresh off of Alien, she auditioned for the flight attendant role of Elaine Dickinson. That role eventually went to Julie Haggerty, but what's odd about the reason she turned it down, she didn't like some of the language that Julie Haggerty has to say playing this role, specifically the scene where she says, "Sit on your face and wriggle." Sigourney Weaver thought this crossed the line and wasn't an area that she wanted to go. This movie was a critical and commercial success, grossing $171 million worldwide against a budget of $3.5 million. Since its initial release, its reputation has grown even more. It's ranked number 6 on Bravo's 100 Funniest Movies. Every once in a while, you just need to sit back and relax and watch a movie that is going to make you laugh all the way through it. And this one definitely does that. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.